not owned by any church or any denomination. They're just folk who love the Lord Jesus. They came together way back in the late 1800s to buy this property because they believed it was the garden once owned by Joseph, who came from the village of Arimathea. And the Bible tells us that he had permission from Pontius Pilate to take the dead body of Jesus from the cross, place it in his own private sepulchre, and it was from Joseph's sepulchre that Christ was gloriously raised from the dead. Now down in the old city is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the traditional site that's been there since the year 523. No, 320. Oh, I mixed up now.
Long time ago.
523, and as the traditional site of Christ's death and resurrection. So one of us got to be wrong because Jesus didn't die in two places. What I'll try and do is, as we go along, make sense out of this, and then you think for yourselves just what you feel and what you believe. Now, why have we got two sites? Well, we go back, first of all, into the 1800s, and there we discover that an edict in Cairo made all the difference up here, and for the first time you could get into the city of Jerusalem without being seriously beaten up along the way. Only semi-beaten. Now, and by 1850, the city of Jerusalem was inundated with theologians, archaeological experts, and Bible students, and where there were question marks over traditional sites, they went looking for alternatives, and seemingly there'd always been a question mark over the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, because people felt it was built in the wrong place. But nothing really changed until about 1870, and then Octavianus, a German theologian, wrote in the Palestinian Journal that he found Calvary or Golgotha outside the city wall at the grotto or the cave of Jeremiah. Underneath this bus station is a vast cave where tradition says Jeremiah was imprisoned, and then various other folk honed in on this same area and were convinced that this was the place of Christ's crucifixion. Now, why did they pick on this site? Well, they went back into the book of Genesis, and there we read that when Abraham was in Beersheba, God spoke to him and told him to take his son Isaac into the land of Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice. That's where you are now. This is Mount Moriah, all the way around here. Then in the book of Leviticus we read that the great sacrifice must be on the north side of the altar, slantwise. This is the northern end of Mount Moriah, and the south is at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So south down there, this will make this northern end the north of the altar. Then if that is south down there and this is north up here, the bus station down below is part of Mount Moriah. But way back in the Old Testament days, this was a vast quarry, and the stone was taken from down below us here to build ancient Jerusalem. 2,500 years ago, they stopped quarrying, as I said. And then the site became the Shachila, the field of stoning. And tradition tells us Stephen became the first Christian martyr when he was stoned down here after Christ's resurrection. Jesus, we're told, was tried and condemned at the court of Pontius Pilate in the old city. Then he was beaten and mocked and scourged and spat upon and taken out of the city through a northern gate, the Herodian gate. The most recent part has been found underneath Damascus gate. There's an arch uncovered, and we're told that arch was there at the time of Christ, one of three of the northern gate of the ancient city of Jerusalem. If that is so, Jesus would have been led through that gate out of the city into a place called Golgotha. Golgotha is an Aramaic word meaning place of a skull, his forehead, eyes, nose, mouth, and finger was taken 130 years ago. Now, if you look across here, in the rock face over there today, halfway down through, you'll see the two eye sockets and the nose. Scholars tell us it hasn't changed over much since they ceased quarrying 2,500 years ago. So Jesus, therefore, widely condemned in the old city, led out of the city into a place, forget the bus station, that wasn't built until 1950. Until then it was an empty site. So Jesus led out of the city into a place called Golgotha. So somewhere down below, God's beloved Son voluntarily went into death through crucifixion, that you and I might live. That Jesus, the one who knew no sin, took your sin and my sin with him on the cross. Somewhere down there, Jesus was crucified. And the New Testament says, at the place of crucifixion, there was a garden owned by Joseph. When all this excitement was going on in the late 1800s, this property in here was owned by a family of freaks who were digging, looking for water, couldn't find any, found what they thought was a cave, wanted to turn the cave into a water cistern, sought advice, and finally was told that it wasn't a cave that they found, but a Jewish tomb, and first century, that they must cover it over. But being good Greeks, they didn't. They put it on the property market. Christians in England, excited outside the Calvary of Golgotha, now got doubly excited, and on September the 22nd, 1892, an appeal was launched in the Times newspaper by two men, one by the name of Murray, the other by the name of Campbell, asking for money to buy this site, and he bought it in 1894 and started digging. And they dug all together for 50 years before they found what kind of garden this was. Now I'm going to take you down into the garden. I'll show you what kind of garden it was 2,000 years ago. I'll take you to walk on the ground level at the time of Christ, and then I'll tell you about the tomb, and you'll go in inside and check it out for yourselves. Okay? Take some pictures if you want to of the skull, and then we'll go down through. Don't get lost. I paid a deposit on it. If you want to ask me any questions, just be there and ask me.